So after you finished on her working on her, do they put you on TLC or how do they decide? So, okay, what's the kind of direction of work to come your way?
Well, at LaFace at that time, it was almost like each artist had a primary producer, so to speak. Like when it came to TLC, that's Dallas.
Okay.
Okay. If you get something on TLC, that's after Dallas has done the majority of it. When it came to Toni Braxton, that was Babyface. If you
Oh,
got
down.
something on her, that was after the fact, right?
Yeah.
At some point, Usher became Jermaine's project,
Oh,
right?
after the whole, yeah.
So to get something on there was after they've done it, right? It's just like when you look at TLC's Waterfalls. Organized Noise produced one record on it. On Toni Braxton's Secret album, I produced one record on it because the majority of that was done by Babyface. So that's sort of like kind of like how it was. And then I would and see, I was quite honestly, I was picking up a lot of work that LA didn't want to do because he was focused on running the label. So
Oh,
it's like I heard when Bob mentioned that about the Boyz II Men project. I wasn't in that conversation with Tim and Bob with the boys. So I can't say what was said in that conversation.
mm,
But what I do know, I know Bob to be a pretty stand-up guy, and he's going to be pretty fucking accurate, right?
mm.
And so I said, I remember LA coming to me and saying, "Hey man, the boys called me." I said, "Boys?" He said, "Boys to Men." Because once he and LA had split, once Babyface and LA had split, they were getting individual calls for production. So he says, "Hey, you remember that song I Sit Away that you played for me?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You should put that on the boys." I said, "All right, cool." That's how that came about.
Wow.
And but I know that what was the other one? And then from there, I wind up doing Johnny Gill because of the Boys to Men thing. And once he heard Boys to Men, and it kind of like went from there. And then once I put my album out, then it was a whole totally different caliber of artist that would
Yeah.
want to work with me.
It's because you go from Pebbles, now you're working with Boys to Men, um, who, we think of En Vogue and we see in Boys to Men as how their range was. For you as a producer and and songwriter and a singer, what was that like recording for those guys? Because they were really at their peak when they were doing the two album.
It was slightly intense at first. So what it was that LA, while I was recording their vocals, LA was LA probably sat at the console for about 30 seconds a couple times. And he came in and told me, he said, "Look, man, I'm gonna just be in and out just so the boys feel comfortable because you're a brand new producer." Like, no problem, right? But I had to sit in there with him. And it was cool because Wanye was very easygoing and Sean and Wanye were very, very easygoing. Nate was a lot more serious, you know, and Michael was just like very quiet, right? So it's like you had four different types of personalities, and so they would it was cool. It was an easy session to do, and we got it done. And it was like that was the first album that I was a part of. And then when I say meaning like because I knew the company that I was keeping on that record. I'm like, yes, I want to do Boys and Men. Why? Because Tim and Bob was on there, Troy and
Ah,
Charles, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis,
mm.
Babyface. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yo, and L.A. Reid, it's going to be great. So I'm like, yeah, this is dope. So I understood. I had a different understanding back then at that age because I'm like, I don't care if my song is a single or not. This album is they're about to sell a lot of records. That means a
Yeah,
lot of people are going to hear my song
yeah,
because it was number five. Like it wasn't that deep into the album. So I was like, yeah, that's the way
yeah.
I saw it. And then I understood publishing. I'm like, they're going to pay me 8 cents for that song per album. 18 million albums. I'm like, that's a good payday. So I didn't
Yeah.
care about no single.
Then I guess who taught you that element of the business? Because I guess those who come in as songwriters, producers have a very different education about the business compared to if you came in as a recording artist. Who educated you on the percentages and publishing and things like that?
My attorney, Roz Jones, and Perry. I learned a lot. See, a lot of stuff that I learned about the music business came from women. And so and then also I would study my contracts. I knew how to read contracts. I knew how to negotiate contracts. So it's just like with my first album, I didn't do a budget. I did a fund because my attorney said, like, hey, if you do a fund, you control it. So the difference between a fund and a like an all-in fund and a budget would be, if you got a budget, then you would go to the studio and then the studio would invoice the record label. It can get out of hand. But if you do an all-in fund, whatever the amount is, say if it's $250,000, they give you the $250, and then you figure out. And when you got the money, you're going to find ways to save money. So I only spent maybe $25,000 to record words. I spent $60,000 to mix it. That's it. That album didn't cost $100,000 to make.
Yeah, but okay. I've had about 130 guests. Joyce Sims is probably one of the few guests who read, studied her book about the business and made sure she handled her stuff. But most everyone says, yeah, it was the 90s. We took the hits and we had to learn. What was different for you that actually, you're not just overwhelmed by the industry and just excited being there, that you actually paid attention to the business alongside the craft? How did you manage to do what most people weren't doing back in those days?
I listened to female energy. That was it. That was part of the key for me. Because when women care for you, women have extremely strong intuition. They can see where you can go wrong. And if they love you, they're going to tell you, avoid that, do this.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that category.
And somewhere in between.
For even loving us, on which I didn't miss you with.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple pieces.
Trying to get this one and that one.
That works for me, but just for me,
No, okay, you're okay.
They don't understand what Jonas' Boyz II Men and all spirits.
Play it.